Assalamu alaikum everyone, good evening. I see that people have already started joining in. Good evening everyone and welcome to the Employability and Soft Skill program. And today is the day 9 for that. So this virtual online training is organized by Association of Muslim Professionals in collaboration with Reed Academy and Siddiqui Learning Services. It's an opportunity to learn from home and develop new skills and improve your own skills. So I would like to introduce you to the speaker of the day, Mr. Shah Siddiqui, who is the CEO of Reed Academy. He will be taking a live session today. So I request Shah Sahab to kindly proceed and start your session. Thank you. And all the participants, if you have any queries, any question relating to the session, I request you all to please raise your question in Q&A section rather than chat box, because all the Q&A raised through a Q&A section will be addressed by the end of the session. Thank you.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope my voice is visible. Sorry, the image on the screen and the voice clear. So we would be talking and concluding our topic on HRM. I hope yesterday's session wasn't too basic. If it was, then today we will be talking about a bit more advanced areas relating to the boundaries of HRM, and also, some applications of the, evolved HCM. So we'll get started. Welcome back, everyone. Today is the concluding session of HRM, and after which we will take a break, and then we'll resume our series, later that would be announced. So we will start out talking about some leftover topics and then move on to some newer applications of HRM. So yesterday we took a brief look into the historical perspective of the human resources management system, more so called personal department. That's how it started. And then we looked at how, the human capital was brought into the picture and how the emphasis was laid and how a generalist PR manager or a personal manager turned out to be a HR specialist. And from there, we looked at how people would gather data, relating to absenteeism, relating to numbers, salaries, and incentives, and how they will analyze data, not just use it to convey the results, but to analyze the data. And within the analysis of the HRM data, we looked at how, the evolved field was able to further analyze the data, looking at cause and effects, looking at illustrations, and basically looking at how, employees can be treated as a source to sustained competitive advantage. So this was the basis for HCM, human capital management. And then we were relating to everything, found in a human being, or taking a humanist approach and talking about humanism. So this laid foundation for the personal attributes of a human being, okay? And that's how these cognitive abilities were brought into the framework of creating a HRM system, or a framework towards an approach to the HRM system. So here we are emphasizing on how the business strategy is incorporated into the HRM policies, how the HRM policies are designed with having the business strategy or the organizational strategy, in its derivations, how they are in accordance with each other, how the business strategies and the organizational goals are in accordance with HRM. So HRM had a lot to do with an approach to the organizational achievements. So HR began to play its role, widening its scope, and then taking a look at all cross-functional areas of the organization. So this turned out to be known as a strategic approach to HRM. Okay, and within the strategic framework, we have competencies in the play. The competencies were making a big difference because they were being attached to the job profiles, to the job descriptions, and then so forth. So all these things were the newer aspects of HRM, now known as HCM. And along with that, the HCM was also able to focus on the resources-based view, where an organizational resources were taken as, an asset, and how this gave about a sustained advantage to the organizational processes, or how we came up with an organizational advantage as opposed to a human process advantage, or opposed to a competitive advantage. So these are the newer aspects of the HCM. And in addition to this, we also were able to incorporate the company's strategic goals, including its mission and vision. HR was the field that was able to look at, analyze the company's vision and mission, and have it incorporated in its strategy. And they even brought, the concept of mission and vision to be translated into measurable terms. So having the mission laid out in all of its policies, in all of its procedures, in operational follow-up, as a part of routine, makes the company's mission and vision very, very, visually available for all the employees, okay? And then for all the, employees relating to the organization, and all the outsiders, the environment, okay, including the opportunities and threats. So it was a big milestone for HCM to have its mission and vision incorporated, as a part of its strategic docs, as well as a part of its strategic goals. Now, when we talk about vision and companies' strategic goals, then, the perspective of the organization from a unit level to the strategic level was, in the play. And that is how, we were able to do an overall roundup of, the HRM perspective. So I hope this part is clear, which is where I wanted to emphasize a little bit, moving beyond our traditional approach to HRM, or human resources, relating to, functions such as recruitment, okay, such as training, such as compensation, and such as, employee engagement, and so forth. So there were newer fields, and there were newer functions, and functions within functions were incorporated. So this is the whole essence of HCM. And with the advancement of software applications, the software development, incorporating, HCM policies, processes, as well as integrating it with every other aspect of organization, made the HCM a very, very strong field, a very, very promising field. And you guys had some questions yesterday about careers in HCM, and we talked about it. So there are tremendous opportunities in HRM or HCM. And then the best part about these opportunities are these are known as cross-functional and cross, industry-wide applicable, or its applicability, for the reason that the skills learned, are very easily transferable. So, a process in HCM can be laid out in other departments because it incorporates other theories. Same way, HCM softwares, applications that we have are very easily, readily be, interchangeable, can be transferred. Those skills can be transferred. So this is how the HCM field evolved. And then most importantly, here we lay focus on, a few applications of HCM that we will be picking on today. And these applications are, laying emphasis on investing in the human pool, in the human capital. And these investment relates to keeping the employees engaged, keeping the employees, developed, well-trained, and well taken care of. They even have started departments such as happiness departments in the organization. So this has a lot to do with, the human capital, the employees, and then managing their talent and developing their talent and using the talent as a source of strength, to an organization is also a trend set by HCM. You guys may be familiar with the SWOT analysis, where we look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Okay, but within the strengths, there were different aspects of the organizational behavior, but never the cross-functional talent pool of talent among the executive. So a higher an executive is in your organization in the sense, in terms of his skill levels, in terms of his talent, the better it is for the organization. And then there's retention of talent, where HRM supposedly fights to retain their talent, because it is based on, it's based on various, policies that go about investing in the employee. Okay, so a smart organization will look at various ways, not to greatly retain the talent, but also to have a low turnover, to make sure that employees don't come and leave. It's not profitable to the organization. While at the same time, they will do their best in providing the incentives from the well-being of their own selves, their health, their physical status, as well as their familial obligations being taken care of, and so forth. So this is how HCM is. And focus is on the human attributes, okay, especially the attributes that are hidden. And one such application that focuses on the personal attributes, okay, that have evolved in the recent past, although it was there, but it did evolve in the recent past, and that very few applications have been installed in major organizations, although there has been encouragement in the area. But actually installing these newer techniques or procedures are in very few organizations, in different parts of the world, especially in the Middle East, I can say. I don't know about the subcontinent and the Asian countries. And one such application that we would talk about today in detail from a real business perspective, from a real life scenario, is known as the competency-based HRM system, that we will look at, from our soft perspective, from the perspective of what we have learned so far, and how this being installed in, well-established organizations. So the topic for today is competency-based HRM. With everything that we have looked at so far, I'm sure it would be, a good way to define one of the applications and to look at in a closer fashion. So I'm going to switch on to the slides for competency-based HRM, and then we'll go from there. And just so you know, this is, within the boundaries of HCM. This is how HCM would be ethical. This is how HR manager will have to be ethical, and most importantly, loyal to the employees, not just the employers, or not just, certain areas of prosperity, but how they would be, legally, responsible for the human pool that they have developed, and how they will report to the employee. This is just like how you vote on somebody who is given a bigger responsibility, and then he will not turn his back and be loyal to his voters. So the purpose of the HCM or the competency-based HCM is basically nothing but a purposeful action, is how they look at it. And this is purposeful management, okay? So anytime you have a purpose, that the management is operating with or under, then it becomes a humanistic approach, okay? And this is the best way to perceive a strategic approach to the HR or by HCM. So I'm gonna start the screen now, and host, please enable the screening option. This might be a long presentation. We'll get to what we can, and there might be some slides from a real life project.
Shahzad Bhai, are you there? Can you please make Shah Saab as a host?
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I hope you all can see the screen. We're going to begin the slideshow in a second. All right, if it's clear, then we'll just move on. So as you can see, the topic is competency-based HRM. This is a newer topic even for HR professional, but from what we have done last week, we can definitely say that competency is not a new word for us. We have been very much familiar with competency. In fact, when I was talking about, EI, there were a lot of questions relating to competency. That's when I thought that, I think we should talk a bit further how the applications are, seen in the business world. So this would be an intro to competency-based HR. I'm going to try to go slow, okay, although we have many slides to look at. And then you can write it down on your journal, any specific question that you may have. If we couldn't get to it in this workshop, we'll look at it later or when we meet again. Some aspect might be new for you because this is a project that was installed at a client place, very famous client, American Express, Saudi Arabia in Riyadh. And this project took about a year. And it was a small team that managed it. In fact, it was just 2 people, and it was all, almost all done by me. So I can pretty much relate to anything that happened, in detail. And if it's not clear, if it's not confusing, even the background of it, even a view of what you have, or even a little bit of understanding would actually help you in getting to having this installed if there is a need, or getting to read more about it. So this would be a jump start, and make sure that, and this is a newer topic, so you're not going to find very clear literature pertaining to how to install a competency-based system at any human resources organization. All right, so you have seen competencies from a different standpoint. Okay, I talked about competencies as KSAs, knowledge, skills, and and capabilities. It can also be known as an ability of a person, okay, which results in superior performance. And this is related to behaviors, okay? So behavior is a major aspect of, competencies. And then there is an outcome in here related to the behavior. And there is an intent here that's attached to the outcome. So these are the few things that you will have in your mind, but there are other ways of looking at it from a business standpoint. And remember, whenever you are to install any HCM application, you would also have to incorporate the company's objectives, its goals, and most importantly, its mission, okay, what it performs, what the purpose is. So this is all about purposeful management using the applications, or the resources relating to the development of human capital, and investing in them, thereby a strategy is formulated that would be laid out in terms that are clear and measurable. So these are the areas, these are the terms that we will revolve around. So read it out, the second part of this slide, using competencies. All right. So the competencies is, to maintain, a low turnover, okay, and overall profitability. Now, just so you know, competencies are used, in the learning and development department more than anything else, because that's how, the gaps are, known, and that's how the required training is, adopted. Now, if you look at the last slide, it is to know how employees are expected to behave. This actually means that when a person applies his skills in a certain manner, okay, in a way, he stands, in a certain way, his posture is, in a certain way, his body functions, then that is to be recorded, observed, and also to be installed. So I hope this is clear. If a person is able to, have moves in his dance, and this is how it's, copied. So the same way the performance, of a person is regarded as a behavior, and this is how it is to be copied. So throughout this project, we were asking managers and senior guys to tell us if there is anybody who performs, who has a very peculiar behavior. We have a unique behavior that we would like to study, that we would like to analyze, and that would like to be copied. Okay, so this may sound different, but that's what it is. How are organizations using core competencies? Okay. Now there are two set of competencies that we have designed or that any organization would seek. One would be a core competency. Okay. The other one would be a behavior or a functional competency, which means that the core competency is a competency that needs to be defined with every job description. So there might be 3 to 4 or 5 core competencies that every job description will have attached to it with behavioral indicators at different levels. Okay. What an employee with such a competency is expected to know, okay, or to have at level 1, which means that at his junior position. And with the same competency at a director's level or at a very higher level within the organization will have many more levels of indicators. And the max level that you can go up to is 4 or even 5, okay? And these are known as multi-level competencies. So what does it do? It engages employees. Well, of course, we talked about it, is boost KPIs, the performance indicators. This is a separate topic, just how you would study about internal audit, project management, and KPIs would be a next topic that you would build on within HRM if you were to be having chosen HCM as your area of interest. So even for KPIs, it's going to help. KPI is the dashboard of skills, that you need to have, and the other technical aspect of it. Focus HR practice. So with this, you can tell how the HRM is only focusing on personal attributes, only focusing on, the employee's behavior or his performance. So with this in mind, the core competencies, become the focus of HR, which means that they have a newer area to play with, a newer area to focus on, and that relates to the personal attributes. In how they are incorporated in job profiles to ensure every employee's on-the-job behavior. Okay, so you may have heard of a term on-job training, but this is on-job behavior. This is to be recorded. So you shouldn't be surprised if there are cameras all over your workplace with the purpose of, understanding your behavior, with the purpose of, sharing your behavior. That's how you would proceed with. So this becomes a common language. So since competencies are based on behavior, it becomes a common language of understanding, a common language that the organization will share, just like the organization's culture. Well-chosen core competencies can become rallying points to inspire and unite employees in pursuit of common goal. Now, one of the common core competency designed for all the employees, of the company I worked for as a consultant, say for 100 position, was a competency called decision making. Okay. So every aspect of the job have decision making at different levels, at a higher level, at a lower level, which means that every employees are aware that decision making is a required skill if you need to work for ABC organization. So when everyone knows that decision making is a common skill, okay, that the organization would like for them to use, then they have these movements, okay, that are their own. They call it moment of truth or movement. These are movements where they are given, what do you call it? A split second movement. They call it a split second decision. So whenever an employee has the option to make a critical decision, he will go ahead and do it within his authority. What it means is he has a level of authority that he cannot exceed, but he is, encouraged to make the decision within the level of authority, especially when it means a split second decision. So very few organizations practice this way of decision making. It gives the opportunity and the power for every employee to make a decision. And this saves the organization from a lot of, serious delinquencies, disasters, or, unmet crises. I hope I'm clear on this. So the power to make a decision is given to every employee based on the fact that every job description has a competency called decision making at, each level, at the level they are in. So this is just an example how this will become a rallying point. All the organization members, when they meet, they know that decision making is our core competency. We need to build on this. How would you make a decision? What kind of informed decision would this be? Okay, will it be a calculated move, or is this something that we have to make relating to health, relating to critical policies, relating to a crisis? Okay, so this is one way of explaining how the competencies can be a leading point where everyone rallies behind them. They just follow, okay, and by this follow, we all are united, just like how we follow somebody, okay, on the internet. All right, let's move on. In the 21st century, look at it, read it out. So this is the way to go. You can see that almost everyone are using competencies. If you recognize a name here, and if you have a doubt, raise it. All right, if you can follow my cursor, if you could follow my mouse point, United Nations was the first place. Of course, United Nations it will do, okay, because it has its sustainable development goals that it wants the world to achieve. US Federal Reserve System, okay, another company, the US Fed. These are specific to regions, okay. These are mostly, companies, from North America. Okay, I'll read this out, the next one. Okay, so here the focus is on talent. Does it make your talent visible? How does your talent become visible? If you read the second part of the slide, these competencies identify the observable behavior of top performance. Do you agree to this? So the focus is on not what they do, but how they do it. Okay, this is the fine line that divides HCM applications versus the older aspect. We never focused on how an employee did it. Okay, if you were to take a critical project home and complete it, and what matters is how soon you complete it or how well you do it, but it doesn't matter how you did it. Okay, which means that your behavioral aspect of it, your way of understanding, okay, your way of analyzing the situation, your way to figuring it out. It's very difficult sometimes to figure out a problem. Okay, once the problem is solved, they don't want to know how it was done. So here the focus is on how, and that's what they call it, the language of competencies. Okay, how relates to the qualitative nature of the task performed as opposed to the quantitative nature of the task. So this is a very important aspect of competencies. I hope we're emphasizing enough on how the behavior plays a role. So if a specific job was performed in a specific manner relating to how, then this is where a competency is highlighted. And this becomes a recipe for success because this is taken and installed on your job descriptions, okay, and your job profiles as a part of, a level of competency that you need, okay. And this is a part of the framework. But before the framework, there is a cluster, and the cluster is attached into the framework. We will look at how a competency-based framework is designed. That would be our building block towards installation of this system. So let's move on. This is about the behavior, and the difference is how it's being done. take a look at what Google is doing. All right, there was a time when you would go to a company like Google, they will give you a 50-page questionnaire. And out of the 50, at least 30 would be math questions. Okay. So you had studied math at an advanced level would be able to answer it. Those are simple questions. So now there was a change. Okay. There was a time when you went to an interview, they asked for your degree, well, more than your degree, they asked for your GPA or your percentage of marks. But there was a time when you went for an interview, they never asked for anything technical because they knew that you have a degree and the degree is genuine. So this is how things change. So if an organization is asking in its interview to the employees how, a mechanical pump works, for a mechanical graduate, then you can be assured that this is an organization not to work for. Seriously, okay? You can just be assured that, I'm looking at progressive, I'm looking at being treated as a human capital, not as, a tool, or not as a part of the toolbox, or not as a means to an end. The HRM employees who seek this decisive methodology would have to believe that they are the end in itself, not a means to end. So this is just, an explanation. Okay, well, you make your own decision, but this is my perspective of how you look at the organization. With the restrictions we have, with the confinement we're going through now, looking out for a company like Google may not be a realistic task. But this is how the companies are moving, at least, in the last 10 years. The next part of the slide. This is based on the research. This is based on the research because competencies outperform, any other approach that was possible, especially the older ones. This is a snapshot of how you would define, a focused employee paying attention to customer service. If customer service is one of the competencies, which is in many cases core, you will look at how much the difference is in the competency that is defined based on the competency emphasized system. But there will be a few things, if you can read it clearly, show clients that their perspectives are valued, keep clients up to date on the progress, enhance client service delivery system and the processes. So a good employee will go a few steps ahead, okay? Will take the initiative a few steps before and after the task is performed. And these employees are very clearly identified, whether it's a high profile mission critical task that you're working on and trying to please your client, or a small, simple transaction, of meeting with a customer service employee online with regards to your, post purchase, dispute, or just walking into a store and buying some grocery. You'll see how, the employee will take care of your needs. Will ask you if you are satisfied, if you're done with everything that they have before you move on to the customer. So it's about how diligently you work and how you use your emotions and how you can build on your personal attributes towards customer service. 5 reasons to use competencies. Let's take a quick look. Organizational culture. Now, organizational culture is another soft topic that is seldom discussed in detail. It's seldom analyzed and is seldom being aware of. A lot of organizations have no idea what their culture is, especially the employees who work in there. Okay. Family-owned businesses do have a culture that's visible and distinct, that's clear. But big corporations, sometimes they miss on it because they hardly have paid attention to installing an organizational culture, to steering it the way, and then to looking at the way it was formulated. Okay. So if you look at the first part of the slide, you'll have a bit of idea. Culture relates to shared behaviors. It relates to the traditional approach. It relates to the skills that the organization has based on its superiors and from a historical perspective. From the elders of the organization is what they call. What they have learned and adapted from the elders of the organization becomes a part of the culture. That's one reason. Second reason is empowering employees through investment in them. We talked about this. Defensibility. This relates to how you can improve hiring, assessment, performance, and then how you can streamline the processes and how this becomes a threat to the other organizations, to your competition. Okay. But definitely, not a weakness, or definitely not, more than an opportunity for your organization. So as long as you have competencies that you're paying attention, you have a happy employee, your turnover is low, employees are engaged, high performance, okay, and there is a growth in the organization, and the organization itself attains a competitive advantage, and so forth. So this is in defense of your organization. Consistency, this is a very important aspect of the competency-based system. Okay. As I said, they all have a common language, which is the language of behavior. Okay, it's how. So now these aspects of job are described with this are moved with this common language. When a person moves up from a HR manager's position to a specialist position, this is how he is, having this commonality. This is how his commonality goes up. Now, when there is, say, for example, a skill relating to business acumen at level 1 or 2, and as he is promoted to a senior position, then he's building on his business acumen in a more advanced manner. If he were to go and get a course taken or a degree in, for example, psychology, then he will go and do it. And this is how we'll ensure that he's consistent with his, competencies, and with his advancement in competencies, and with his, with the organizational goal. So whether it's for your position at a micro level or at the macro aspect, okay. Competencies-based human resources or competencies invested professionals can have this all integrated through different HR activities in all different departments of the organization. This is a topic that is the basis for the competency management. It's a very big topic though. Results, as you can see, there is a 63% reduction in turnover, 19% in employee performance, 12.5% increase in sales and profits. So if an organization can have on its income statement a 10% increase in its gross sales, that's a big number, okay? But look at 63% reduction in turnover, okay? That's an even greater number, okay? So you can say the results are greatly being, profitable to the organization in terms of recruitment, selection, and termination. The turnover is greatly reduced, okay, by 63%. So if 100 people were to leave the company each year, that would have been a loss of 100 times so much. Now only 37 people are leaving. That's a greater, that's a great sign. That's a great indicator. All right, this is what HR management framework would look like, or this is how a competency-based HRM will work. Take a look at it and you will see it will make sense because we have been talking about it, and this is how it's illustrated. So you can tell how important the business strategy is. But before we get to it, you have to make sure the organization has a strategy, okay? You know, organizational strategy is a very specialized field. It's formulated, okay, in a very, very detailed and collaborative manner. And this strategy, once it's formulated and implemented, would have to be across the board, all over the organization. Everything that the organization does in the areas of customer service to, to hiring, and to recruitment, and to manufacturing, and to production, and to IT would have to be in accordance with the business strategy. This is very important, okay? So strategy formulation, design and implementation is what you would look at. And you will have this incorporated all over the place, okay? And that is to give the better result. So the competency framework, once it's designed, will first start out with the organizational strategy. Now, to emphasize further and to look at what an example would be of an organizational strategy, because it's not confusing, it has to be very simple and it has to be very broad. There are only two types of major strategies, okay? One is a product-based strategy where the product is highly differentiated. So the whole world knows that this organization focuses on the product, nobody can beat the product. And then the other strategy would be a low-cost strategy where they wouldn't focus more on the product, or the product would not matter whether it's highly differentiated or not, because it does the job, it serves your purpose. Like a soap is a soap, but if it's a low cost, if it's cheaper, then that's the strategy that the manufacturer has adopted. For example, if you look at the world's largest retailer, Walmart, okay? It has a low cost strategy, definitely. It has brought many retailer or the giants, out of business. It became the world's largest retailer. And not just that, it has an impact in China too. Every Chinese manufacturer, producer, distributor wants to be associated with Walmart. It wants to have its products on the shelf of Walmart. So it has a low-cost product because the price is low. And then Walmart emphasizes it everywhere. And it does whatever it takes to keep the prices low. Now let's take a look at a highly differentiated product like, for example, once again, Apple. Okay, and how the product is, strong. In other words, everyone knows the Apple products rock, and then the prices are a bit higher or reasonably higher than its closest competition. So this is the strategy that the company would have to have clearly. But when it comes to Walmart, when it comes to Apple, when it comes to Microsoft, when it comes to Google, we all know the strategy. However, there are millions and hundreds and thousands of organizations that function without a strategy. So as a consultant for HRM and HCM, you have to make sure the organization has a strategy. If it's not, you would formulate one and implement it. I would take that strategy and have it involved in all the building blocks of HCM. So this is the most important aspect. This is how we make the mission of an organization translate into measurable terms. Something conceptual is measured. This is one topic to build on. Definition of a competency from the perspective of the framework. So we will take a look at job behavior, okay, and the job description, and move on to a job profile. So with these two in your grip, you mix it or you mesh it up for a superior performance. There are competencies after you install will stand out, would be identified as a competency that will bring about, less than superior performance. And there would be competencies that will yield results of superior performance. So you have a clear distinction between a competency that will bring about less than superior performance as opposed to a competency that will entail immediate and superior performance. So which one would you choose? And what would you base it on? You would base it on the behavior. Competency and job descriptions go together. For those of you who are into HR, you know what a JD is. And for those of you who are trying to get into it, you can very easily, take a look at some physical JDs if you don't have one for your own self. Elements of jobs and sequences of tasks. When you have a job description, it only talks about what skills are needed and what is to perform. It doesn't talk about the sequences, okay? And about the people, how well they do it, relating to the behavior. When we design a competency-based system, we are mostly concerned about the soft competencies. These are known as the functional or the core competencies. And there are some technical competencies that we wouldn't worry much about it because those are already described in the journals. But a HR professional is also to design technical competencies. But the purpose of this is just to look at the soft competencies. We can just cruise through, screen to screen to take a look at how the process works. So take it out, lead it out route. All right, there is an example of competency. One competency that is a core competency in most cases and most organizations is the adaptability, known as the adaptability. Take a look at it and see its key behavior. So you'll have an idea about what I was talking about all throughout. Read it out fast. Now, if you look at adaptability, that's what the competency is about. But if you look at the key behaviors, then this is what is expected of the employee who would have adaptability as its competency. Now, this is one level, okay? Then it goes on. You see 3 points under key behaviors, okay? You can take this as level 1 or, level 1, 2, and 3 to make it simple. So you need to have, as you progress in your career, you need to have all these key understandings and behaviors installed in yourself as a part of the job description that you are given, which contains adaptability as a core competency. Benefits, take a look at it quick. So these are criteria based, okay? They reference a criteria. This criteria is nothing but, how well a competency will, yield results and how poor it would, okay? So this is known as criteria referencing. Implementation. Competencies impact systems that actually support the organization's vision, strategy, and key capabilities. This is also a very specialized topic, but what you can understand is how a soft statement like a mission and vision of the statement is incorporated in the business strategy through the framework that you design, and how the vision and mission is visible in every job task that you perform. I think we'll build on this later on when we see some slides. Now, once you start designing the competency framework, there are some building blocks that you have to follow. You would start out with the role profile. Now remember, role profile relates to a much more, or relates to a wider aspect of the job, and not just be confined to the job description. So it includes everything, and a job description. Then competency-based HRM is nothing but analysis, on the basis of competencies and how the behavior establishes, that dimension. The first step to designing a competency-based HRM is, designing a framework, and within the framework you have competency analysis. Then competency modeling. There are 3 topics under this model, and this is how you will describe the competencies needed for specific areas. All right, the other important point here is to remember that every competency is a part of the cluster of competencies, okay? So like one division of competency, which contains a bunch of competencies within each, and these competencies within the cluster have its various indicators, and these indicators will have different levels. It's just a tree. If you can read this, within the customer relating to competency, customer service, you have a lot relating to customer service, working with others, managing others, and so forth. Okay, the framework starts out by building on, your relationship with the organization, going and meeting with every different department, trying to see what they have now as criteria referencing, trying to see what they can possibly do, to improve it. But the end result is you who would design, at least 4 or 5 core competencies and 10 to 20 other behavioral competencies, and then pick and choose this based on your interviews and allocate each and every competency with a specific level to every job description that you have in the organization. That completes your framework, and that is your deliverable where you would give every job description the competency. But however, you start out with meeting people, making teams, and working with every department, going out, seeking, advices, their suggestions, but you ultimately write and give those competencies. Those are a part of the competency dictionary that you design. So L&D had about 80% of, competency applications. That's where it's implemented. Performance is 76%, selection is 85%, retention is 55%. Retention being 55% usually doesn't mean that that's how much it is effective. Effective rate is different, but this is where competency-based system is applied. This is how much. I have some highlights here based on my previous presentations. I wrote here, in a typical Saudi workspace, management needs to increasingly extend their performance management systems to access not only objectives, but also qualitative aspect of the job. So in any workspace, managers need to increase their assessment of the qualitative aspect of job. So here it has to be referencing the whole set of competencies in the framework. This is after it's installed. And they can carry out a joint assessment. They have to sit together and then talk about, those soft areas that are relevant to the role. Now, this you can tell how difficult it would be for a HR manager or a personnel manager who is not aware of a competency-based system, or who is aware but who doesn't have the inclination. Okay, so this is about how flexible you are and what your mindset is. This is a part of our proposal. As you can see, there were steps followed. Successful implementation is based on self-directed application. So it has to be simple. It doesn't have to be very complicated, very hard. But of course, you have to have support from everyone. When I was working on this project, we were introduced to all the heads, and we did a presentation. I did a presentation, like just like what you guys are looking at, but more pertaining to specific objectives for a couple hours or maybe for half a day for senior teams for 3 consecutive days. And then we had a meeting with the CEO. Okay, so we needed to draw the support. And until the CEO was convinced, we could not move ahead. Okay, and we could convince him only on our last meeting where, the results were in front of him. And then we could see that everyone was pleased. They could see us, we could see a smile on, every top guy only after they saw the competencies, given to them. So, it has to be going the way it needs to go in a soft, and calmer fashion. We had questions about the types of interview yesterday. So you can take a look at what a competency-based interview is like. You're familiar with conventional interviews. Okay, and this is what a competency-based interview would be like. So the questions are disclosing examples of behaviors in the past. So this is to disclose specifically and in detail. Past and predict future, okay, relating to behaviors. And this is where the psychometric testing comes into the picture, where they have standard scoring systems and they refer to behavioral indicators. So this is how they will score and tell you how good your behavior would be. It's a probable, it's a prediction that they would think that you would behave so and so, in a scenario, leading to such a result. So that's the difference between interviews based on competency management. And you can tell very easily what these questions are because they would be so different. There's a STAR approach, situation-based. This is a part of the interview. Take a quick look. So the interviewer is actually asking you what the outcome was, what the result was. It would be up to you how you say it. Here's a sample question. Read it and see how these competencies come into the picture. So if they are trying to gauge your competency known as influencing others, this is a very important competency. They will describe you, ask you for a case or two, where you were able to approach a new customer. How did you do it? They will ask you philosophical questions. A very famous question could be, what would you like to do, a year from today? Okay, so you should have an immediate answer to it. You would like to know what your result would be, something like that. Biases in interviews, of course, that's a common aspect, regardless of the type of interview. Okay, so how would you dismiss the biases? How would you distort the stereotypes? Work on your first interview, first impression. Then there is an halo effect. This is a general topic. So it could be a good or bad thing. Um, one aspect of you could overshadow all the other negatives or positives. Example is going to a top-notch school might act favorably in many cases. This is the situation-based bias. It depends on people, come up with their own theories in this area. In career planning, how competency-based career planning system is designed. Based on the competencies, you can tell where an employee would be 5 years from now, or who to keep and who not to keep. This is also a part of, career planning based on the competencies. So it's based on the position competency profile. So there is a path defined under the position competency profile that an employee must have to be able to hold a certain position. To hold and get to a promotion, that's the competency needed. Sometimes to be passed down or to be passed over, you lack a competency. All right, this is simple visuals. Take a good look. Now you know that there is job description, job profile, and also a job family. So where different jobs fall into, one category, and then there are competencies relating to that. Assessing employees' career plan, you match your competency, and the organizational needs. Assessment centers is another area, of HR, that is once again, serving the purpose, of different functions, and they usually have it either outsourced or separate. Major organizations have a assessment center. Career needs match the organizational needs. And how is this done? Through competency mapping. We map competencies to profiles, and we come up with a gap, and the gap, tells where the area of focus is and how the gap can be fulfilled through the proper training. It could be any of those. So what is your current competency in the area of, for example, adaptability? And what is the level of the indicator, on or for the same competency on the level that you are held? And whatever the difference is, level 2 or 3, whatever descriptions are under level and 2 are your competency gaps or the required skills. And this is how you are sent to the training program. This is a very, very easy way of accessing the gap. Now, this is the competency profile per position. If you look at manager on the left, his required competencies are all of these, okay? And the required level here for communication is 5 or maybe 4, and public speaking is 5, and everything else is 5. So does he have these required levels is what you would look at. And the required levels are clearly, described in each competency under level 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. So this is a 5-level competency as opposed to 4, which is common in the market. I hope this clarifies what I was talking about, this slide. This is, once again, a focus on the same slide. Profile per person. Once you have access that he needs 1, 2, and 3, or whatever, 4, then you would place him under the relevant training models. Like he needs leadership 1, communication skills, art of motivating. Now, if he is a manager, okay, it's a manager competency, then leadership is what we want to give him. So this is how easily it's assessed, and it's pretty much automated in all these newer applications that we have. So it's pretty automated, where you click on the gap and the model and the training module will pop up. I'm not too familiar how the most advanced HRM applications work. You can be the better judge based on what you use at work. I'm not even sure if SAP HR module has such details based on the competency system. However, it cannot be a generic model. It has to be designed specific to the company as you see it. So I would say that since a market generalized product will not be specific, will not be customized, the organization will have their own competency systems designed based on the framework created from the scratch. This is once again how it's checked, what's needed and what's missing. So for full supervisor, the competencies are listed, okay? And whatever he's doing, is whatever he needs is based on the different modules. On the vertical side, you see the training modules. If it's not clear, those are the names of the training modules. Performance management is a very newer aspect and a very important aspect of HCM. Okay, so here once again we focus on the soft. The results are based on hard or quantitative aspect. Okay, and the competencies represent the soft or qualitative aspect. By this we mean how the results are achieved. It's all about learning. Okay, it has nothing to do with failing, but it's all about learning. So of course, there is a score, and then this will determine the required level and how he would be promoted or how he would move. The whole purpose of the competency-based assessment is the metrics that we measure. Okay, so it turns out everything measurable. Now, this is an example of another competency known as collaboration. It may not be clear on the screen, but all I want you to look at is what is collaboration as a competency at the basic level. What is collaboration as a competency at an intermediate level and as an expert level? So he who needs to be a collaborator in an organization will have to have everything that's listed on the rightmost column of the table. Assessment center, I think we touched it. Okay, standardized evaluation of behavior based on multiple. These could be specialized centers based on, once again, psychometric, procedures. Judgments about behaviors are made. These judgments are collected, stored, and utilized for future purposes. This is different assessment techniques, role simulation. These are interactive practices, some of which you can find it in your activity sheets that are uploaded on the system. So do look at it. So this is about interactive exercises, group exercises, discussions, focus groups, role playing, bringing in every possible, ice-breaking technique. Are competencies related to emotional intelligence? Yes, this was your first link to competencies based on the module that EI. But for a person who's not aware of his not aware of his, emotional awareness, then, it might be a lot for him to understand where competencies are coming from. And there is emotional intelligence as a competency, but I haven't seen it at major workplaces. Although, references are to emotional intelligence in competencies such as sensitivity, flexibility, adaptability. These are major competencies. Resilience, impact leadership, and decision-making techniques, and managing others, such as. This is a snapshot of how, our project was delivered. This is just a snapshot of everything that we did, that we had planned to bring it out. And, basic, snapshots or overviews for presentation purposes. We're getting closer to the deliverables, how we delivered, okay? And this was all presented on a Excel sheet, with core competencies and behavioral competencies, and with every title from the CEO all the way to the bottom. So we had the strategy from Amex, its vision, its desired culture, all taken. This was all grounded in a mixie, okay? It was chunked, to pieces, powdered, and this powder was spread over all these competencies. So if you pick up any competency that was designed for a specific organization, then as you read it carefully, or if you are a member of the organization, access to strategic information, you'll be able to understand from reading these competencies that, okay, well, this is what is our mission, and this is from the mission. So if the mission of an organization is to provide pristine customer satisfaction, then you will see the word pristine customer satisfaction, in an elitist manner. So you'll see all these terms spread out in the competency. And this is what I mean by, incorporating the vision and mission and translating it into measurable terms. This is a difficult concept, but I hope you're getting it. This was the on-job, mechanics, illustrative purposes only. There is a note here. This is about how we organize the job families. Any one job may only be placed in one job family. All the different jobs in the same job family may have different, maybe from different departments, divisions. A status report. Now, this was the actual deliverable. If you can see it, this is the department of the chief CEO. It goes all the way from CEO to IT, and then it goes down to finance. And every position that you have in an organization should be listed on your dictionary or your competency template. It starts with head of compliance, compliance officer, internal auditor. It goes forth to CFO and operations. And in the same template, you would have the competency. For example, I'm going to look here as problem solving. This is one core competency that we had defined. And this is the definition, which was written by me relating to the company objectives and strategic docs. Terminology is very important here, relating to specific functions and objectives. And this was level 1. And this is all is required as a level 1, for a compliance officer who needs to have problem solving as a competency. And this is level 2, which increases, which has more, important and higher aspects of the job. And then it goes on to level 3 and level 4. So the deliverables were in the form of competency, architecture, and behavioral competency dictionaries. Okay. A competency dictionary is nothing but the competencies derived out of the framework. You give it in the form of a booklet with all the competencies listed at the perusal of the organization or the HR department that will use it as they want, that will analyze it as they want, and that will also increase the levels as they want. Like 5 years from now, they needed to have an extra level, but there is a new area that did not exist in the past. And of course, your position as a consultant would also be to assign all these competencies to different job positions. And there would be some recommendations in the areas, specific areas that you would like to make learning and development. Ethical HR, I have it highlighted here because this is where everyone needs to work on. Okay, this will bring about sustainability in the organization. This will bring about a flow towards advancements. Okay, this will bring about a very high morale within the organization. So I don't need to talk about how important it is to be honest with your own self, with your own position, with your organization, and and how responsible you should be in utilizing the resources, not to mention the time. There were some recommendations. This is just, not concerning to this presentation. And then conclusion and outlook. And I would like to end the session with the mission of our organization, Read Academy, which is to bring to mind the subsistence of the word read, okay, and sustainable development by making the mankind of all types read. So here the focus is to read. So I would like to end this session and be open for questions by saying that the only thing that is more sustainable now at this stage for you all to accomplish what you need to do for all these modules that we have been talking about and all that we'll be presenting in the future is to start reading, building on a habit of reading, make everybody else, aware of the importance of reading, because it helps in many ways. So you can read anything that you like, you can read it any way you like, and the purpose is read. And one of our objectives is to provide you free books. If you were to, if you were ever in need of any books to read in any specific area, feel free to get back to us and we will provide you the book to read with and pledge that we would like to have from you to read at least about 10 books a year. All right, so I'm done with a strategic approach to HRM with an application such as competency-based HRM system. This was a bit different from what we were doing last week and this week. Those were more on learning aspect of the module, newer topics. But what you saw today was a bit, different. I hope it was also, comprehensible and then making sense for those of you who are not out there yet. But this, I thought, would be a good way to see what is going on, how the applications are in the world. So with this, I would complete our topic for today, and also our series of web talks. The webinars are going to take a break today, and depending on how the institution AMP decides, you all will be informed about future announcement. So over to you guys for questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Shah, for such an informative session today. I'm sure it will help all our participants in their career post-COVID-19. So now I will move on to the Q&A session. There are 3 open questions right now raised by the participants. I'll read them one by one. The first one is it mandatory that HR must have MBA degree? Technical people like BTech or MTech graduates are not suited?
Can you repeat it? Is it a requirement, you said?
Is it mandatory that HR must have MBA degree? The technical people like BTech or MTech graduates, are they not suited?
No. See, if the position requires, a technical degree, then this is a technical competency. We only talked about behavioral and, functional competency, but there are technical requirements of the position. You need to have that. But if you're asking about how to get an HR job, then, you don't need a technical degree for that, right? But if you are in specialized recruitment, for example, you're trying to recruit very specialized, professional for very high, infrastructure engineering firm, then you may require that degree. But you will also require experience. But the organization will only, promote those technical aspects of, the position, from those technical executives that are already working the organization. But you don't need a degree, MBA, to be an HR professional to begin with. You can join in with anything that you have. It's a generalist role in the beginning. And then you would move on, as you learn the job. But you don't have to at least wait to get an MBA to join an HR firm. There are newer techniques. This may have been the old way. You can do if you happen to have an MBA in HR concentration, then yeah, you can apply for HR. But we talked about there are 2 major certifications that you should work on if you have the time. And there are major softwares, applications that you should learn if you have the time relating to HR. Okay.
All right. So what are the techniques for answering competency questions?
Techniques for answering competency questions?
Yes.
See, these are the traits that are inbuilt in you, okay? And you can only improve on it. But if there is a scenario, that is relating to, a situation you were in, you have to answer it out clearly, honestly. But if you have an understanding of what emotional intelligence is and how you can regulate your emotions and how you should not be physical and try to manage a crisis, if you're familiar with that, then you would write it as an answer to those questions, how you didn't go physical, how you didn't, react aggressively. And that would be the right way to build on it. Okay.
All right. So here is another one on competency-based interview questions. How competency-based interview questions are marked?
Are marked?
Yes.
Well, they just have a scoring system, just like any other, assessment. So they have a scenario, they will ask you, and depending on how you behave, they have an approximate scoring system. And they will score it based on what you did in a scenario. If the question is, if you had 2 supervisors, 2 bosses, and one tells you to do something and the other tells you to do something, how would you react, or what would you do first? So based on this answer, they have a scoring method as to what you would say. If you would try to please both, okay, then they may score you high. If you would try to please only one, then they may score you less. And if you try to please the one that's urgent, then they may score it differently. So they have their own ways of doing. You just have to do your part. Next question.
Yes. I'm a final year student in civil engineering. Which soft skill is important for me as per your suggestion?
Okay. What you can do is try to look for some job descriptions relating to, your background. Okay. Depending on which organization you are planning to go. If you have already a position, then it's very easy. But generally speaking, engineers have poor skills. I can say, because, I'm one myself. And secondly, they have to start out with communication skills. It's very important. You may be good at math, but if you cannot write it down, then it's of no use. So sometimes people are, surprised to see how an engineer can also write a letter. Okay, that's how funny it is. So engineers have the poorer skills. I can say it without any hesitation. Okay. And please don't mind, this is so you just build on it. Communication skills is important. You should learn how to talk. You should learn how to write. Manners, etiquettes, social requirements are very poor. So start out with everything that you can, read as much as you can, try to talk more and analyze less. Okay, and try to build on your techniques of relaying messages, feedback. I think everything that we did or that we will do in the future will be very important for especially those engineers out there. Okay. And the other mindset is your technical skills. Try to ignore that. Think that you are nobody. It doesn't mean anything. Knowing, the equations or whatever is an era of past. That has no value in the job market these days. You would start out with a freshman saying that you are a nobody, you have no your technical skills have no value. What I need to learn is how to understand, the business, how to communicate effectively, how to improve on my writing skills, and how to convey messages in the most efficient manner. Next question.
Okay, what is competency mapping?
Well, you design a competency based on the job profile, and then you map it onto the job title. Okay. So you give a competency to a position like, say, a junior engineer. You give him 5 competencies. It starts out with adaptability, communication, decision making, and most importantly, let's say, managing others. So this is mapping of competencies, and there's a specific term, but it just falls over each other, and then a competency is mapped to a position in such a manner that this becomes a part of the job description. Is that clear?
Okay, yes. I have a bachelor's in HR and master's in finance. So does it have any effect or impact on my career in future?
No, it's a very good combination. It's a very good combination. Finance is the way to go. That's always on the top. So if you look at management, which is always on the top, and the skills required is general management, if any, finance. So within finance, there are different areas. Okay, finance is finance, cash in and cash out, and there is accounting. That's a different area. So worry not about the accounting skills, but build on your financial skills. Understanding topics such as capital expenditure, understanding topics such as investment theory, and how organizations work from a profitability aspect. So that's a very good combination to get into an organization, but aim towards management. Try to be in general management with your degree. That would be, the most profitable aspect of your career. Next question.
Okay. Do HR need to be abreast with labor laws and statutes relating to factories and industrial law?
Yes, that's very important. We talked about it yesterday, how HR manager would have to be aware of the statutory laws, the local, and the state and the central laws, all would have to be readily available at his manuals. Half of the time he may be doing that. This is a big issue when it comes to the safety at the workplace. So you have to be familiar with this, attending those meetings, being a member of these legal compliance, regulatory bodies and whatnot. That's very important because this could cause non-compliance and your organization could shut down. I have seen bigger organizations face very major penalties, or they could just shut down. It's very important. And it's the job of an HR professional. Next.
What are the 2 courses and the tools mentioned by Mr. Shah just now?
Tools?
2 courses and the tools.
I didn't get it.
Yeah. It was raised 10 minutes before. What are the 2 courses and the tools mentioned by Mr. Shah just now?
Okay, you are probably referring to the certification in HRM. These are worldwide, standard certifications, like how you would like to be a PMP. One is CIPD, Chartered Institute of Personal Development. This is out of the UK area, I think from England or so, that you can apply for starting from their website and try to get a membership and become a certified HR. And there is another HR certification from the US. These are the 2 major, certifications that are desirable in the world of human resource management. And if you can get anywhere close to getting either one of these, then your job is secured, your position is secured, and you can progress, you can prosper, because this is very much in demand. And along with that, you can also get some, ERP-based software certifications, exams done. One very famous HRM is the HR module by SAP, and there is one from PeopleSoft, there is one from Microsoft at the lower level. But I think the SAP's HR module on the technical side and the functional side is very much in demand. So if you can get to learning these at a recognized place and getting a certification, then you are very, very, marketable in the HR market. Next.
Could you please repeat about accessing the books to read? This is the last question.
Well, I think there is a recommended reading list that I usually forward it on the LMS platform. If you were to read a book on competency-based HRM, there are quite a few. There is one company called HRSG based out of Canada, Toronto. They specialize in this area. If you are to follow them, and they give out a lot of literature and resources for free that you can easily build on it. And there is also a famous book, it's an Indian book written by Sherman, Shermon, that you can check out on the internet. This is not a free book, you would have to buy it. But there is also a couple other freely available PDF format that you can download if you check out. So if competency is what you need to do, start building on, search on internet and see whatever you can do. And my area of interest is reading. So I always like to read a couple extra books on any topic that you have. So remember, any famous book will not give you the essence of the matter. You also have to read that book, and a book in the front and a book in the back. But of course, skim read. You have to learn and build on the habit of speed reading, where you should be able to finish a book in a day, okay? Or maybe a few hours, few hourly sessions here and there, and you can do it fast. So depending on the size of the book, and in case of not being able to find one, please write to me and I'll try to look for the specific that you need in any area. I have a very, well-compiled database of ebooks that I'll be more than happy to forward it to anyone who needs to read. Anything else?
No, we are done with the Q&A session today.
Thank you.
I will ask Saeed Bhai to make the announcement.
Sure. Thank you all.
Saeed Bhai?
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, thank you so much, Asa, for this very informative session today. And for the other participants, we would like to just, make an announcement that today is going to be the last session of this series. And we will reconvene again on Tuesday, that is 19th of May, okay, for an hour. And that would be like a concluding session, wherein, we will have, people from AMP coming and talking about, the overall, feedback that we got from this. And also, Shah Sahab, if you can also take out some time on Tuesday, I would request, the same time, 4:30 to 5:30 India time. Okay, if you can just come down, be available. It will not be any knowledge session, but it would just be, feedback session. We would just exchange some views. And then we'll have people from AMP also coming in and talking. And also we will announce, the top 5 performers on that day. And right after that session, the certificates will be available in your login. So certificates will be available in your login based on the assessment you have taken. So you have time from today until, Tuesday. So please finish off all your assessments from the LMS login. And then after the session on 19th of May, again 19th of May, Tuesday, 4:30 to 5:30, there will be a session. And after 5:30, the certificates will be available in your login. So we would send an email to each and every one of you. But then, we would like to just announce it here as well. So see you again on Tuesday. And again, the remaining topics, whatever topics which we told that will be taking that that date will be announced later. So that will be sometime next month. Okay, that we are not sure about it right now, but we would announce it later. But for the sessions that we have done so far, certifications will be available only after the session on 19th of May. Yeah, so this is about it. So totally how many assessment is one question that's coming up. So for each topic that we have done, time management, then stress management, emotional intelligence, okay, resume writing plus interview skills, and now again on this HRM. So for each topic there is one assessment that is there. Okay, so it is there in your login. So please feel free to log in and then complete the assessments. Okay, Mr. Zubair, I'm not sure what was your query. Okay, so we have already responded to all the email queries. Maybe I might have not gotten your email. So whatever be your question, okay, you can send the email again and I'll be happy to address that. Okay, so this is about it. So next is on Tuesday. Yes, Tuesday 19th of May at 4:30. We'll see you all again, inshallah.
All right, I have noted it down, and inshallah, I'm available. I have it down. I'll be joining from my side. 2 o'clock, 4:30 p.m. is the time, right?
Yes, that's right.
Indian time. Okay. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Shah sir, for your wonderful session, and Saeed bhai for all your support and valuable time today. So we'll see you again on Tuesday, 19th May, inshallah, and that will be the conclusion part of this current series. To all the participants, I hope that every day who attended these trainings are satisfied and happy with the enrollment. So we expect you all to be there on 19th of May for that 1 hour session, which will be taken by ANP. And it will be really beneficial. And the remaining subjects, as told by Saeed bhai, which we are not able to cover in this session as of now, we'll keep you updated through emails. So I would suggest that you can keep an eye on your email for an update from ANP USA. So as soon as we have any particular date for the remaining sessions, we will update you via email. So it was fantastic to have you all on board. Thank you so much for being part of Employability and Soft Skill program. Thank you so much. This is Shehzad signing off.
Bye.
Take care. So.
Thank you.